It seems as though we are very soon to outgrow this room. So give yourselves a hand. Mahalo for supporting our music programs here at Wyndham Community College. These events are in support of our music programs so that we can continue to have events like these and offer experiences like this for both our students as well as our community at large. Keikoa, are you somewhere near? Keikoa? Or Ha'a, can you raise the shades in the back so there's more room now that the sun has gone down? So we welcome you all. For those of you that are just joining us, when you came in, there should have been music available for you to grab for those of you who want to play along. The music will also be up on the screen behind me for those of you who are sitting close. And there are also programmatic sheets, program sheets of our music offerings here for our general music program and our Hawaiian music program. So we welcome you all. Thank you for being here on this beautiful Thursday evening here in Kaneohe. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest artist tonight, a man who comes from this area, just down the road. Actually, I'm sure we'll get more into it, but used to live just across the bushes this way. And not that way, not that way. The bushes this way. But then also, after his early years, grew up most of his life there in Kahalu'u. So we're glad to have this Kupa'aina here back to share his music with us. And for those of you who aren't aware of our theme for today, I decided it would be a very pertinent theme for the circumstances that we're experiencing here in Hawaii right now, where dialogue needs to happen, where voices need to be heard. So the theme is called Mere Aloha Aina, so our songs will be focusing on love for land and places, as well as songs of the Hawaiian Renaissance. So I invited Uncle Jerry purposefully because he has greatly used his music through those times with the Kaho'olawe movement, with Waikane, with the inception and formation of Oha. So he's used his music in a large number of ways for times just like these. So I thought no one more appropriate than to have Uncle Jerry Santos. So I was about welcoming Uncle Jerry today.
How nice it is to be invited to Kaneohe and not just to one of my family's house. When Kamuela first approached me to come back and make some music for you, I thought, not again, they're gonna get tired of me coming over there.
No, they all came back.
How many of you came for this evening's program because you liked the content of what we're going to discuss? Don't be shy now. How many of you came just because you had nothing else to do tonight? How many of you have no idea where you are? Oh, good, my people have arrived. As Kamuela said, I am a product of Ko'olapoko. When I was born, my family lived in Ka'a'awa, and by the time I was about a year old, we had moved back to Kaneohe, where a great many of our family lived. I grew up here on Haiku Road. Spent a great deal of time there. And then when I was 9 years old, our family moved to Kahalu'u, across the river from hygienic store, before there was, any highways or any development, any real people on our street. So it is a pleasure to sing songs about the places that we love and the places that we come from. So I guess the best way to start tonight is to say, Aloha kuhome, ai Kaneohe, minamane hauliuli. And there it is. Hona kona. Give me one. Papakaila, Kaila, Kaila, Kaila,
So what a way to break you guys in, yeah? So all of you were frantically looking for that song in your chord chart, and it wasn't there. Welcome to the life of a Kanikapila, you guys. So
that's because of me. I just had to throw that in there. It is such a wonderful example when we think about place name songs, songs of places that we love. Louisa Hopkins wrote that song for our family home, Haliko. Certainly one of the beautiful songs for Kaneohe, and Abby Kong wrote that wonderful song for when the first electricity came over the mountains to the windward side. I like to joke it's how some of us got intermarried. Before that we weren't sure. But both of those are wonderful examples about the idea of writing songs that, when we look at those words, aloha aina, love, care, respect, consideration for this place, this land, this giver of life, this place that houses us, that helps us to develop. And when people write songs like that, it's not in just observation. You're not just saying, oh, I happened to see a mountain as I passed by it. If it's aloha, if it's ko'o, it's something that you have personal information with, yeah? You know when the rain is coming. You know what it smells like after the rain. You know perhaps how cold the water is in a river if you go there. You know what the lo'i feels like if you walk through it. So this idea of writing songs, many of these songs that have these kinds of terms, ku'ohome, ku'aina, all come with that sense of attachment. Yeah, it's you belong there. Your spirit feels something special connected to the place that you're talking about. so many songs. Aloha ku'uhome a ikialuhi. Frank Hewitt writes about that land that juts out, that peninsula of land down there at Heia. Ku'uhome o Waikane, my beloved place in Waikane. Puamana, ku'uhome I Lahaina, my beloved home Puamana there in Lahaina, Maui. People have written so many beautiful songs using those terms. As Kamuela said, I moved down the road to Kahului, and that's where all my formative years were spent. I'm the product of the village because not only am I the youngest of 9 children in my physical family, I was really hanai to the people across the river. Because in my house, you know, if you wanted to go lie down, you had to make sure there wasn't 10 people already on the bed. Having the Chong family there in Kahului was a great joy to me. In that family was a girl who was my age, my sister Donna Chong. Donna and I both connected through music, and she actually taught me to play the guitar. It was a product of anybody from Sacred Hearts Academy. They actually taught me how to play the guitar. I know that sounds like I'm making this up here, but the nuns used to teach the girls. They would come home and teach us. But this song really, although it speaks about my love for Kahului, it really was written for my sister Donna because she chose to keep her life close to home, using her music in a church at Waikane, Our Lady of Mount Carmel. But Brother Jerry was, out in the world having adventures. So from time to time, I would get in touch with her wherever I happened to be. And in this melody, came about because I had found my way to California. I was making music in San Francisco, and on a very cold night, thinking about where I had come from and what I was doing, where I was going from there, I sat down and wrote these words for my sister. I think I was 20 years old when I wrote the song. I had no idea it would follow me around for the next 50 years. But every time I hear it come back to me, I'm really informed about it in a different way. Not only the relationships that we have in our lives, but certainly our attachment to the foundation that we stand on. So I think it would be a good idea if we share this song with you. I know these first 2 songs are in an odd key, but while I was in San Francisco, I stumbled on this E tuning. I didn't even know what it was. I just knew I was playing it, so it's just stuck. So it is in the key of E, and we promise we'll move to a better key after this. I remember days when we were younger. We used to catch a walk in the mountain stream. Round the corner hills we'd ride on horseback. So long ago it seems it was a dream. Last night I dreamt I was returning, and my heart called out to you.
Not there yet.
I remember days when we were wiser, when our world was small enough for us, and you have lingered there, my sister, and I no longer can see. Last night I dreamt I was returning, and my heart called out to you, but I fear and not as I left. Que awa ku me o kahalu. Change is a strange thing, it cannot be denied. It can help you find yourself or make you lose your pride. Who is all the gone. Please do not hold on to me, they all must go alone. I remember when we were small, when we laughed and sang the whole night long, and I will greet you as I find you, with sharing a brand new song. Last night I dreamt I was returning, and my heart called out to you to please accept me as you'll find me. Que awa ku me o kahalu, que awa ku me o kahalu, que awa ku me o kahalu. Mahalo for knowing that, and for those of you who are singing along. Okay, we're getting started. It's a good thing.
Yes, we are. Does anyone have any questions? This is a different opportunity. For those of you who are joining us at our Kanikapila for the first time, this is not quite a typical concert where you come, sit down, listen. Obviously, you have instruments, a majority of you. But also it's the opportunity to ask the questions you've always wondered. Whether or not you get an answer is one thing, but you're more than able to ask. I have a question, actually. I just was thinking of it today. Do you remember who the first person you showed the song Ku Home Kahalu'u to, and what their reaction was?
Actually, I wrote that song on an afternoon, and the strange thing is that over the 5 decades of writing songs. There are times when you get an idea, sometimes you pool ideas over a period of time and you rework the lyrics or perhaps the melody lines and you think, I've created something really wonderful. And then you play it for somebody and they go, Kahaluu is exactly as I wrote it down the very first time on paper. And I think intention has a great deal to do with how our compositions come out. Yeah, I was writing about something that was personal to me, something that I understood, I think, at that moment in time. And so it came out exactly like it did. And that evening I went, in those days in San Francisco, back in the early 1970s, really getting a job as a musician was almost impossible. If there was a place that was known for making music, you would go down there and the first 10 people who signed up got to play 2 songs. And they passed the hat around and they gave you dinner. So there were many of those places, and of course, as trying to get myself situated in that music scene, I found myself doing that. So the first time I played Kahaluu was that evening. It was a place called the Holy City Zoo.
Holy City Zoo?
Holy City Zoo.
Was it a zoo?
Yeah, well, it kind of was.
Oh, okay, so not that kind of zoo, I get it now. I was like, yeah, I was a hit with the elephants.
But really, actually, it had come about because of this place. It was a spot where everybody really wanted to go and make music. And as a young musician, I think I was 20 at the time, 20, 21, something around there. It was exciting to see that people just like me had come from all over the country to come there, to be in San Francisco and like me, had come from music careers already. I was playing at the front of the International Marketplace when I was just getting out of high school. So by the time I had made it to San Francisco, I had done a lot of things musically here at home, including opening some concerts at the NBC Arena. I shouldn't have, but I didn't know any better at the time. Because when you're just starting out, the last thing you need to do is be standing on stage before Smokey Robinson and the Miracles come out, playing a mixture of Hawaiian rock and roll. Yeah, everybody's screaming, "Where's Smokey?" Anyway, but what I was starting to point out is that I had met all these people who had come from different places, a Native American who had incorporated his culture into his music. There were people who, were playing bluegrass music. It was interesting to see that what was really becoming successful is people creating themselves. Yeah, sitting there trying to sing a song, busted flat in Baton Rouge, heading for train. I have no idea what Baton Rouge is.
Or was. What's a Baton Rouge?
Yeah. So I think the thing that I learned early on in that period of time was that it's important to recognize your own voice, whatever that may be. If you're not a songwriter, it's important to identify the music that makes you feel good about what you're doing. The Kahaluu song really was a growing up song for me for several reasons. Growing up in Kahaluu was incredible. There was no roads, as I said, no Kahikili Highway. Ahui Manu Valley was the home of the old hygienic dairy. So that was all pasture land all the way up into the mountain. And we were mostly 4-H kids, horse club kids. So we had a roping arena back there in the valley and just nothing. We would camp back there during the summer months. The river, as I said, was like as close as you are to me, right outside of our back door. Waters came down from Ha'ulelo Valley and from Mahui Manu and had a huge swimming hole right outside my backyard. So those are the things that were my playground when I was growing up. But when you're a country kid and you get your first taste of going on the other side of the mountain, we had an auntie who worked for the tour company. And every once in a while she'd have to go into town and we would hide in her car and not let her know we were there until she got over the mountain. And then we would give her our quarters to drive us through Waikiki so we could look at people.
So did people like Kahaluu the first time you played it?
Actually, it was the best response I had gotten in that particular place. And the lady who ran it actually said that she liked my music. And then I told her I was going home the next day. The song was it. I had solidified that thought. When I wrote that song, I had already decided this was my last night in town and I was going to go home. So I came back to Honolulu, and the next day I started back out as what is now Kona Brewing Company. In the old days, it was called Chuck's Steakhouse, and I played music there 5 nights a week. And so the next night after I came home, I played it, and I don't know if people liked it or not. They were, it was the kind of place where everybody was drinking.
Yep, so they liked it.
They were like, oh, Jerry's back. But when we're talking about Aloha Aina and the idea of how it infuses itself into the music, I mention Kahalu over and over again because even though I've lived in many places over the decades, when I need a comfortable place to go to in my mind or my spirit, Kahalu is where I go to. Because right outside of the house, as I said, was where the river came down. There was a giant stone there, and the water would lap up against it. It was so soothing. And now, all these many decades later, in my mind's eye, I can still hear the sound of that water. I can still feel what it's like to be sitting there on the banks. And so Kahalu has infused how I perceive the world, my relationships with other people. And that's what Aloha Aina music does. Tonight, I thought not only would we play some of the songs I get to create, but some of the songs that everybody's familiar with, and take a look at them in the context of this. And so these songs will be familiar to you. And for those of you who are playing in the slack key G tuning, we thought we would just put everything in G for a while.
Yeah, he wants to, what he really is trying to say is you're welcome. What can I say except you're welcome?
And for those who play slack key tunings, this is one of the best tools you will have. Because, I play in E tuning. People say, can you play this song? I go, I don't care. Any key you like. I just move the capo. The idea of Aloha Aina, when we look at it in context historically, music has always played an important role in informing us in these ways. Yeah. When we look at early songs, Hawaii Aloha, I think, is a classic example. Most of you are familiar with this song. Most of the time, people will sing it at the end of a night's music or a party or some gathering. Everybody stands up and holds hands. And people new to that custom think this is an old traditional custom. I beg to differ a little bit. And I will say, as a disclaimer, I'm not an educator. I'm not a lecturer. The only thing I'm an authority on is my own life experiences. And when I think of people standing up and holding hands, again, it brings us back to Kaneohe, to a woman named Loyal Garner. Loyal Garner, in her early days at the canoe house at the Ilikai, started singing Hawaii Aloha at the end of her shows. She was considered the Lady of Love. Some of you might have seen her, and those who were lucky enough to do so know that you were in the presence of something magic. She was able to create that kind of a feeling, and so it's become kind of commonplace now, in 2019, that you hear this song in that way. But when we consider this song the words were written in 1860 by Lorenzo Lyons, Makualayana he was called. He was an early missionary who came here to Hawaii in 1826, I believe. Lived on Kauai in Waimea. He was a big proponent of making Hawaiian language written, having a written language. And if you look through Hawaiian history, you will see that as time progressed, not only did it become true, but Hawaiians were very literate. Many newspapers, one of them called the Aloha Aina. But this Hawaii Aloha, I think, is one of the most important songs in Hawaiian music because it shows that from the earliest time, people were looking around them and recognizing that the land was the important thing, that this place that we were given as a present certainly is the basis for everything else that happens in life. So we're going to give this a little bit different treatment on the slack key stylings, if you will. And nowadays everybody only sings the first verse. I thought for tonight we would all try to sing all three of them, because when you have this kind of a story, it's really kind of nice to do that. And I will be struggling along with you, so you might hear me okay.
Thanks a lot. Come on.
Anahe Kume Kulai Vine Olino Avina Pono Landiro E Hawaii Aloha E Hawaii E Naopio O Hawaii Maina he ai makani e pai Mau te aloha no Hawaii Te hangi mai ko maukini landio Ko mapua aloha e Hawaii Na mea olino kama no luna mai E Hawaii Aloha Okay, let's hear you now E Hawaii e Naopio o Hawaii Okay, let's practice our instrumental skills. Shall we go for three? Na ke akua e marama mai na hoe O mapua rono aloha nei O mauka Hawaii noli 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 O Mau ke aloha no Hawaii Mau ke aloha no Hawaii Okay, give yourself some room. As I said, many people like to do that song at the end of the night whenever we get to play our music in places like in hotels where we make music. I like to do it first, just so everybody knows where we're coming from. Yeah, this already sets the tone for us. This is our home, this is a place that we love. And the words, O Hawaii, sands of my birth, my native home, I rejoice in the blessings of heaven, O beloved Hawaii. Be joyous, O youth of Hawaii, rejoice. The gentle breezes blow love always for Hawaii. And when you think these words were written in 1860, and in 2019 we're still saying these words and singing these words, that's I think, incredibly tremendous. And then we have that period of time when Aloha Aina took on a slightly different context. People were singing about love for their home, love for their land, and then times were changing. Things were changing. Things were changing in the land. Things were changing in the Hawaiian Kingdom. And the newspapers started reflecting it in the stories that they chose to share. And the music started changing. Now, this is another song that I'm sure you're all very familiar with. But we use it here to represent this idea of Aloha Aina in a political context. This song was written on February 10th, 1893. On January 17th, 1893, the Hawaiian Kingdom was overthrown and Liliuokalani was imprisoned. So a month after, all of these turbulent times were happening in the Kingdom of Hawaii. Ellen Prendergast was approached by the people from the Royal Hawaiian Band, and they said, we're not going to play. We need a song of our own. So that day, this mele came about. We know it as Kaulana Napua. One of the alternate titles is Mele Aipohaku, because it says, quite frankly, it calls to everybody across the islands and says, we are good with who we are. We don't value the sums of money offered to us. We don't want to be part of this thing that you are telling us we need to be. And we will just be satisfied with the stones, pohaku, the stones of our land. Our heiau, our fish ponds, everything are built, our house structures are built on this pohaku. Yeah? So when it says the astonishing food of our land, we know that in the creation of these islands, without getting too lengthy in all of this, the pohaku is a very important part of it. Yeah, the land is created by Pele. That's where all of this substance comes from. And with the passing of time, it evolves. It gives us structure. It gives us foundation. It gives us life. So in this mele, I know when I was a younger person, I was a student at Kamehameha. I went to board at Kamehameha when I was in the 7th grade. And it was a wonderful opportunity. I gleaned a lot because of Pauahi's kindness. But Kamehameha in those 60s and 70s was still very much a ROTC school. Hawaiian was not taught, Hawaiian language. We gleaned a lot of what we were picking up about music and history through the songs. Every year we had song contests. Something was taught at song contests, and that's what we took home with us. Yeah? I had heard this song when I was a kid growing up, and everybody was playing it with kind of all kinds of like happy music tempos. Yeah, they were like rocking out, and people were making up pulas, and it wasn't until way later that I, looked at the poetry and I thought, what were they thinking? So again, since you're in G tuning, we will give this a little G tuning. Kihoalu. Are they strumming, playing?
They can do whatever they want tonight.
I'm just curious.
Some of them will pick, some of them will strum. They'll all be happy though.
So we step back into 1893 and think the song is made full circle. Yeah, you still hear it today. Kaulana Napua o Hawaii, Kupakamaupeo kaina Kimai kaileleo karukohino Palapalanu mikapaka Aunana hua orai Kupakamaupeo kaina Kimai kaileleo karukohino Palapalanu mikapaka Then it calls for all the people of all the islands. Pane mai Hawaii mo o ke are. O kuana honua o hirari. O mai ka Hawaii o maro. Mapu me ke uio ka kuhihera. Aole e kaui ka pulima Mana o ka pepau ka heneni O hui aina puai ewa I ka puno sila o te kanaka Aole mako Aole mako e namina E ka puku ka lau ke au puni O la mamako I ka pohaku I ka ai ka mako ka aina So we just have instrumental skills again. Oh, hello. Everybody has to play. Maupe makoli ulai Awa ai kapuno kaina Ai mai na kapuana Kapupe au kaina Maupe makoli ulai Awa ai kapuno kaina Ai mai na kapuana Kapupe aloha kaina
Anyone else have any questions for Uncle Jerry? Besides me? Gage, you had one. Do you have a question? Okay, go ahead.
Is this extra credit?
No.
How did Olumana form? That's an interesting segue. when I returned back from playing music away from home, I had met Robert Beaumont a few years before I was gone, and I came back home and found that he was playing in a club in Waikiki that was also owned by the same people I worked for. So one evening I was down there, and we started talking, and Robert said, "This group I'm playing with is breaking up tonight. Can you play with me?" I had never played with Robert. I actually had met Robert some years before because I went into a club where he was playing, and he said to me, "Are you the guy that wrote that Malia song?" When I was at Chuck's in Hawaii, I had started playing some of my own music, and a disc jockey from KCC Radio, Mr. Al Kalama, in those days, actually would come and listen to me. So he took me down to the radio station, and there in the radio station, on those old reel-to-reel recordings, recorded a few of my songs, 3 songs, and they started playing it on the radio. People thought that they were professional recordings, but they were not. They were just reel-to-reels in the studio, because he liked the music. And one of the songs was a song I had written called Omalia. And I think it was because of how we both thought about those things we were writing about that Robert had invited me to play with him. Anyway, long story short, people ask me why the name Olomana. I have no idea. At first, I was like, I don't care, call him what you like. Yeah. But as time went by, it made sense. Robert grew up in Kailua. I grew up here in Kaneohe and Kalu. Olomana stands right between it. We both grew up seeing that mountain from afar. So I was like, that makes sense. We can do that. So it isn't anything real terribly emotional or attached. The name came about by accident and stuck for a very long time.
I like the other translation.
Shut up.
Just Google it later, you guys. Google it later.
If you look up Olomana in the Hawaiian dictionary, it says old man. That's what he's alluding to.
So you are Olomana.
They didn't name it for me. That was, years ago. Wait. Okay, we're gonna go play in C, huh? That's D.
Yeah, there we go.
See, that's why I come well. I just guess. Because what key you playing in? I go, this one?
I like that one. So this song, Omalia,
Are you going to want me to give a little background? Or you want to give background on why you wrote it?
Kamala wants me to tune. You see that bossy in your classes?
Yes.
I can hear all of you and see all of you. Just want you to know, gosh. Yeah, there we go. So this particular song, Omalia, and I share this, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I like to think I'm a decent listener. This song came about because during this particular time, the song Nanakuli Blues or which became Waimanalo Blues, was a fairly up-and-coming song. And that particular song kind of had the reflection of the message. A little bit of the message was these things are happening to us. And perhaps even we can just get away from them, just flee them. And Uncle Jerry wrote this song kind of in response to Nanakuli Blues, which is another song that he recorded on that reel-to-reel in the studio. Were you one of the first people to record that song?
I think I was. Actually, Lico Martin was somebody I met very early on. When I was a senior in high school, they started the Key Project in Kalu'u. And the very early days of the Key Project was to give a place for, many of us had troubled backgrounds at home, and there was no place, nothing to do. Everybody was getting in trouble. So they decided to create this Key Project, and it started as an afternoon program up on the Lutheran Church on Waihehe Road. Across from the Key Project is a little white building up there by the church. That was the very first after-school program, and they took people from the community to staff it. The Pakeles, the Kalahikis, me. And during that period of time, Mr. Randy Kalahiki, who was really kind of the spirit of that program until his passing, took me one day to this house over at St. John's, Wailau, Everybody calls it St. John's. And there was this guy in his house, and he was sitting there playing the guitar and singing. Because Randy knew I loved the music. So he said, I want you to meet this guy. So we went over there, and the music was beautiful. And I said, what is this song about? He said, this rug I'm sitting on. I was like, wow.
That's heavy.
I am so impressed. This guy is a genius. Anyway, Lico Martin became a friend, and as the years passed by, Lico shared, his music with us, and we all went out and played it. We did TV shows together and had some fun with all of that. But Aldo Kalama did record me singing this song, and it's interesting. The original version was because Thorwald and Lico had driven out to the west side of the island and saw how things were changing out there. And so the song was written as Nanakuli Blues, but of course our friends, Country Comfort from Waimanalo, recorded a good version, and the next thing everybody was calling it Waimanalo Blues. So they were saying, Jerry, you're singing it wrong. I was like, no, I was first. Well, come on, is right. We were all singing this song, and nowadays even you hear people singing this song at parties, and everybody starts singing it like it's a really happy thing, yeah. Drinking up and then singing this song with gusto. When you listen to the lyrics, they're quite depressing, actually. Get in my car, I'm going so far, I'm never coming back again. And I thought, that's not Kaulan and Apua's message. I'm not moving over so somebody else can do this thing. And I thought, is that, if I keep singing this song like that, without prefacing it with why I'm singing the song, am I doing any of our children and our family a favor? Because you have to remember in the 40s, 50s, 60s, early 60s, after the war, it was a very different world for Hawaiians. Yeah, it was a difficult time to be Hawaiian, and many families had decided it was easier for their children and their grandchildren if you put those things away. Yeah, I heard my grandparents speaking Hawaiian. They didn't teach us. They didn't teach my parents. Yeah, we heard it, but we didn't know what they were doing. So we were coming to a time when the world was changing, and those of us who were coming of age were saying, how come we don't know these things? How come our kids come home with this defeatist attitude and with this sense of self that maybe they're not as good as some of the people they've encountered in their day in school, of the people who have come from outside? Yes, we are different, and that's okay. So, as Kamola said, I ended up going home and writing this song for the little ones in my family, and it really was the reason that Olomana started, because Robert heard this melody and he liked what I was saying. And so it really created the foundation for the Olomana music. So we're going to share that with you now. And we moved to C, so some of you already got it. And if anybody, need kipo, we get some. Thou don't be shy. Come raise your eyes, for you have a beauty that was touched by nature's hand. Your long dark hair blowing gently, the sun on your brown shoulders glows. This is where you be. Oh Maria, stay by me. Oh Maria, we must be strong. Oh Maria, we've been silent too long. So raise your voice and slowly of our land. Tell them how our fathers worked by hand. For this soil needs the beauty only love can keep from dying. Oh, Maria, don't you cry. And though our lands they take away these changes every day, cement towers stand where we once played. What they cannot take away is the love we share today, and the children we will bear to carry on. Oh, now can't you see? It's up to you and me. So run and tell the children of our kind. Tell them to be strong in heart and mind, and sing to them a song 1,000 years of pride. Oh, Maria, take my hand. Now it is time for us to stand. Huwag kilaw kayo, inaupin. Surely the life in our land and our families and our culture must be perpetuated by our young people, as you guys. Well, some of you.
I have a question about that song. And I'm asking these questions really honestly because I don't know. And so just out of curiosity, is there a reason you chose the name Malia, or was it just a name that you...
Actually, nobody in my family was named Malia. I just wanted it to be generic. And the reason is, I said earlier, in my blood family I have 6 sisters and 2 brothers. And Kahalu'u, when I wrote it, I said, sister. Every one of those sisters want to know if it's them.
What do you say?
I just tell them it's who's ever in the room. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's definitely
It's you.
So with Malia, I thought it's best to choose a name that, you know, is comfortable and familiar, and I don't have to explain why it's just for one of the children in the family. Because I have 32 nephews and nieces, and God only knows how many grandnephews and nieces and the great-grandnephews and nieces. My sisters and brothers and their families decided to have a little mini reunion about 2 years ago, and they took all the parking at Kula Beach Park. And that wasn't everybody. That was just the generations and down. The thing about when you asked about Olomana too, by the time Robert and I had come together to make music, we had both been writing songs. So by the time we recorded our first album in 1976, all of these songs were what we decided to put on it. Fortunately, we didn't know that you had to make songs a certain length to be played on the radio in those days. You know, Kahalu'u was 7.5, I think, minutes.
Yeah, they had to do a commercial after one song.
Yeah. I was like, nobody's ever going to play this music, no one will ever hear it, you know. Fortunately, that didn't happen. Knock on wood, thank you, Jesus. But Malia, Kahalu'u, Home, there was a whole bunch of songs on that very first release in 1976. And as I said, it was an interesting time. Yeah? Things were changing. Hawaiian language was being introduced to the University of Hawaii for the very first time. Classes in Hawaiian language were available. I had read The Queen's Story in 1970. It kind of changed my idea about trying to understand who we are as people of these islands and where do we go with this. And so many of the songs that were on that first Olomana album were really reflections of who we are as people of Hawaii in our changing times. And it resonated because it wasn't just us, it was everywhere in the language, in the history, in education. Everything was taking a step where things were being examined. The world was moving too fast. Land was being developed too fast. Everybody had this sense of, we need to stop for a second and figure out who we are and what do we do. And as a result of this music being on the air, with music like my friend Keola Beamer, we're young men of this country, we are young men of this land. We were raised behind the mountain stream. Our fathers worked the land. I mean, people were writing songs like that. And for our music, it got heard by some people who really changed our life at that moment in time. I got a phone call from some folks on the island of Molokai who said, "What do you know about Kaho'olawe?" And I was like, "Nothing. I really don't know anything about Kaho'olawe. I know I've been seeing some things on the news." They said, "You know, people are listening to you folks. What you're saying in your music is important. We have a song that we want you to sing. And maybe if you sing this song, more people will know about it." So they sent Owana Salazar over to my house with her guitar and the sheet music. But I don't read music, so... but I brought it. This is the original sheet music of Uncle Harry Punihi Mitchell from Keanai Maui, who wrote this mele o Kaho'olawe. Actually, Uncle Harry had done a 45 recording of this with his sister. But, of course, nobody had really heard it except the friends and family. So the idea was if Olomana, who's being played on the radio, sings about Kaho'olawe, maybe people will stop to listen. It sounded like a good idea to me. So on our very next album, we recorded Mele o Kaho'olawe. It came out in early 1977, and it was at the time when the whole Kaho'olawe issue was really coming to a head. And what an exciting time to be alive. Because we learned to sing this song and record it, all of a sudden we were there for the trials, we were there at the prison, we were there for all of the concerts across all the many islands that led to, decades later, the idea that Kaho'olawe and what people were speaking about at the time would come to pass. Uncle Harry Mitchell, when I first met him, he would always say to me, I said to him, "What should I know? What do you want me to know when I sing this song?" And he said to me, whatever I played, anytime I asked it, just let the Spirit move you. That was his advice to me. He didn't tell me much more than that. And that's how our kupuna worked in those days. They let you learn through osmosis. Yeah? Just listen. Listen and feel where you are, and it will guide you to what you need to know. I carried this song everywhere for a number of years. Some of my friends in the room tonight, Maheleni McClellan is back there, and Mihana Aluli, from all those early days, when the Kaho'olawe issue was coming to fruition, there were concerts on every island, gatherings at every island, in stadiums and anywhere. And part of the reason we could have these discussions is because music. Yeah, there are very articulate people. There are natural-born orators who can get up and speak about a subject. But sometimes if someone speaks too passionately about something, and we all probably can think of people in our own minds like this, so passionate about what they're saying that sometimes you don't hear the message. You just hear how they're delivering the message and not the message itself. Music goes past that. All of the people who steered me to things would always remind me that music is a way of delivering this that people will listen to, and when they're done, they might remember the song, and therefore they will think about what it is that you're singing about and why you sang the song in the first place. And certainly Kaho'olawe for me is the example of all of that. We got to sing it outside of the courtroom in downtown Honolulu when Emmett Aluli was on trial. The initial 9 people who trespassed onto the island of Kaho'olawe came off and said, we saw things on that island. How come this is happening? And it was out of that all of it happens. Some of them got arrested. Dr. Emmett Aluli from Molokai was put on trial. In those trials in downtown Honolulu was very informative. And I met some of my mentors, Auntie Emma DeFries I met in that courtroom, and many of these people. Richard Sawyer and Walter Riddy were 2 people that really put their lives on the line for these things. They kept going back onto the island, hiding, waiting to be arrested. And we don't think about them. In these days, I think when people talk about Kaho'olawe, everybody thinks of George Howe. Rightfully so. George was perhaps one of the most eloquent people we had at that point, putting out that message with such passion. But all of these other people were there as well. Joyce Kainoa, who ended up moving into the backside of Molokai, she was so disillusioned with population. Joyce Kainoa was a fisherwoman from Molokai, and she had her boat impounded for taking people over to Kaho'olawe. Joyce was put in the women's prison over here in Kailua, Olomana, and somewhere in the archives is this picture of us standing outside the fence with a sound system and all the Kaho'olawe people around us singing into the women's prison. I wish I could have found that for you folks. The first trip that I went on to Kaho'olawe was the first allowed access. Yeah, when they finally said, okay, we will work with the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana, they allowed the very first access. I think maybe 30 people or so, I'm not really sure. And like other things, we're like, how are we going to get there? It's not like you can catch the bus, or catch a plane. So how are we going to get there? Robert found his cousin on Maui. We went to Waihe'e, stayed overnight, sleeping outside. And in the wee hours of the morning, we got into this little boat with an outboard motor and went across from Ma'alaya Harbor out to Kaho'olawe. I think the boat was made for like maybe 2 people. I think there were 8 people in that boat. It was like low in the water. And in those first access, the only way to get to shore, of course, was to jump in the water and swim. And if we were going to be there 5 days or so, I don't remember how many exactly, but you had to take what you needed with you. Everybody had their black garbage bags with, a few things in there, a couple of snacks just in case, and then you had to swim to shore. I just remember how beautiful coming for the very first time and having the ones who were already there come out to the water and oli to me. My friend Kawahine Kamakea Ohelo now was the first person that was there to greet me when I got off the boat. Hakeo'awa is the site where the first group of us went to be. They helicoptered Kupuna in, so some of them were there. The Kupuna Wahine of Molokai, Clara Ku, Lani Kapuni, Auntie Mary Lee. There was a bunch of people. And all different and assorted kinds. We all wanted to be there desperately. But it was an organized visit, so the DOD officers only allowed you to go in certain areas and do certain things. You had to sleep in the base camp, and the base camp was haulikoa. That was all there was, like scrub haulikoa. Hardly any shade anywhere to be found, and full of mice. So the first night we tried to sleep in there, you had mice in your sleeping bag, mice running up the leg of your pants. You had to hang your stuff from the trees, Everybody had jobs. The fishermen went out fishing. People were doing different things. Jerry had no skills, so I was on the work crew, cutting haulikoa all day, and then gathering around the fire light at night, to have hula and music and storytelling. And I've sung this song in many places, as I said, over the years, but probably around the firelight at Hakio'awa for the kupuna, they would say, "Go get Jerry, we're going to go sleep now, so tell Jerry come sing to us." But anyway, this is a lovely melody. Uncle Harry Mitchell wrote this song with a great deal of love. And along with George Helm, his son Billy was one of the people lost at sea that really kind of changed the debate about where this issue was going. I know that's a rather lengthy introduction. That's the short version. So we say Uncle Harry's melody. We just need the girls dancing around the firelight, yeah? The songs, Hui Alaloa is a group on Molokai that were first legally challenging the right of the local people on Molokai to access the beaches. Yeah, Molokai Ranch had closed off different areas. Hui Alaloa challenged those protest marches. So in the song, he takes the idea that Molokai has always been like the place where the seed is planted and the seed grows. Molokai people are steadfast in what they want and don't want, and they don't budge that much. Molokai has changed over the years, but Molokai people are stalwart in their affection for their home and how they perceive it and what they want to do. So out of the Hui Alaloa came the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana, which morphed into that whole organization as well. And certainly the people of Molokai had a great deal to do with how that all came about and went about. Did I get it right, Maya Lani?
Well, when Uncle Harry wrote the song, the first time through, because the verses are done twice usually, that verse was written first, the first time he said through. And if you went to Awaia this past weekend on Sunday, you got out and danced his father's wife. She would not have danced it unless the people on the stage were singing it with Huialaloa first, and then the second time through Napo, and wherever we're at, that is the only time she would dance it.
And that's always the way that we sang it. So I didn't even know it was done differently. That's what happens if you just go look online and think that you're getting the real deal. Okay, sometimes you have to do a little research. The Redariti that Mahalani is referencing certainly is one of those driving spirits for the Kaho'olawe themes that play in my mind. When her husband Walter and Richard Sawyer were in Halawa prison, Olomana did a concert with the Honolulu Symphony at the concert hall. There was a visiting conductor from San Francisco who was part of the evening, and we did this song. And I found out that Loretta was in the audience, and she was hapai at the time with one of her babies. I acknowledged her. She danced down the middle aisle of the concert hall. It was a magic moment. Aloha o kaho'ola, maiki no hikoino o kanaro, ko he malam lau kana kaole hiki mai na pua. Aluli ke kako lahui Hawaii mai kalai ki kala kauahe kumakai ohi kai kana kana kali mako nui ke aloha no kai ano ano na mua o hui ala no ke kaua kauhon me kaupune paapu kamanao no kapuno kaina iwana pua langa kila kahona. Uncle Harry's words say briefly to us. Lava ay kahoholabu. From the beginning, you were called Kanamu. The southern people, now barren and without population. But you are slowly being visited by our people again, and it grants you some peace. And so even now, let us continue to gather together, people of Hawaii, from the sun up until the sun down. As we join together in one thought, to bring new life to our land. So let's continue to move forward and bring that salvation for our home. Ano ano na pua o Hawaii no ke kaua kauhoro me kaupune paapu kamanao no kapuno kaina imuana pua lana kila kahorane imuana pua lana kila I was just remembering that when Uncle Harry first after I met him and he let me sing his song, and he would join us oftentimes wherever we were playing and sing this melody. He also came to hang out with me a lot. He would just say, I'm at the airport, come pick me up. And I only had one room with one bed, which was his, as long as he was there, yeah? And he would hold court because the students at the University of Hawaii were starting out in Hawaiian language. Uncle Harry was helping them as a resource to build the lo'ikalu, bringing all those skills with him as well. So I would come home and there'd be like 10 people on my porch, having Hawaiian language conversations. So he would say, I'm 66. I didn't think much of it at the time. I was like 26 and it seemed perfectly normal that we were hanging out together, yeah? I mean, nowadays when I meet people who are a little younger, sometimes they treat you very nicely, very respectfully, but it's almost like Teflon, yeah? That's why I like Kamuela. He's never nice to me.
That's a lie. I was nice once.
That was a really wordy introduction. Mahia, you got anything else to add to this? No, I'm glad to have somebody to talk to because, otherwise it's very schizophrenic sounding. Mahelani and I have been friends for a very long time. She worked with the Kaho'ola Veohana in the early days. One trip to Kalaupapa to visit with the patients down there. We all hung out for the whole week with the folks from Molokai. And Mahelani was one of my friends that was with me, and we, just like every place else, we would go. The kupura would take the houses and they'd say, if you really want to experience this the way we did, go sleep outside. So there at Kalaupapa, under the kamani trees next to the ocean, the melody for Come To Me Gently came about. So Mahialani and I were really the first persons to sing that panic together. But those early days at the palace were interesting, yeah. It didn't take a formal gathering. People were having discussions. So sometimes you went past there on a weekend and you would see kupunas sitting on the benches and everybody would be sitting around on the grass having their point of view, yeah. They didn't all agree. You know, there was always dissenting points of view, but everybody could sit and they could talk and they could listen. And if it got too uppity, one of the kupuna like Claraku would just point her koko and that was it. Nobody was messing around after that, yeah. But the palace was certainly a hotbed for activity. When they envisioned the Office of Hawaiian Affairs as a catalyst between these times and the state government, the only way to get that up and running was to get people to know about it. So once again, musicians were called. We traveled every island with a cultural slideshow. We went to all of these different places and played the songs as best we could. Out of them came some songwriting as well. We're going to share this song that also came about somewhere in around 1977. I had gone to Los Angeles to master one of the recordings, stayed up all night, caught a plane to come home to Honolulu because I had to play at the anniversary of the overthrow at Iolani Palace. So Culture Shock was with me that afternoon. And that day in particular, it was pretty astounding with the number of people who came. And when they sang Hawaii Aloha, people held hands and made a ring around the whole palace. And being in the middle on the stage, observing that firsthand was kind of overwhelming. I went from there up to Lili Okolani Gardens, up there off of Lusitano, I think. You guys know where Lili Okolani Gardens is? Yeah, above School Street. It's a lovely little garden and bears the name of Lili Okolani. And it's said that when, she used to take her carriage and go up there and sit next to the waters. So it's always been a place that I love to go to. So on this day, after leaving the palace grounds, I found my way up to Lili Okolani Park, and this mele was born. Again, we'll just stay and see. Walking in the time where we came to waiting in the waters where we came to play. Aloha for this place seems to serve to me, and your dreams of what Hawaii could be. As the gentle rain comes down from Kuanu, I think of the rain they took from you. Raindrops fall softly in your garden. Is it you, Lily? Sovereignty, people call today. We choose our champions and we wish them on their way. From the state to Congress Hall is Hawaii heard at all, and down into the land of plenty of laws we don't want to understand, forcing people from the islands. Are you listening? On the palace grounds our people met today to speak of the appeal you made when they stole your rights away. Did you hear the voices joy the sky. I feel a part of you with me. Raindrops fall softly in your eyes. Is it you, little? I will stay living Anybody have any questions about that period of time before we move on to something else? I see a hand back there and I see one over there. Oh yay! You folks hear that? If you want information about that concert, go see that lady with the beautiful green on. How's that?
What was the other question? Oh.
It's about Kanikapila. When you recorded your album as a quartet, the second song is the Watermelon song, and I believe it was written by Kanikapila, but it says the pigs. And I was just wanting to know what is the background of the song and who are the pigs.
You know that Nakialohe Hanai Mai, which is what most of us know it as, when you were thirsty, when you were hungry, I gave you these things. Yeah, it's a song of closeness and understanding. And we recorded that song because it was the first time that Haunani, Apoliona, and I had come together. Haunani had, when my partner Robert passed away, I got a telephone call, and maybe a half hour later, people started coming to my door. Haunani was one of the first people to come. The difficulty of being in a situation that I was in is that we were at a point where we were probably at the height of our visibility in our music. We had played at the inauguration, the swearing-in ceremony for the trustees, the very first board of trustees for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs there at Iolani Palace. We had gone from that occasion that was a moment, a grand moment, to have that come to fruition, through that. Went home and the next morning I found out that Robert had passed away. And the thing was that as a group, Olomana, we had a bunch of professional commitments. I had a concert at the NBC exhibition hall. I forget what it was for, but it was like a week later. It was 5 days later. It was like, how do you do this? You know, how am I supposed to do this? The person that I play the most closely with is not there. My drummer, my bass player, myself, we went and we did that concert. Just the three of us on stage. It was a difficult night to get through, but somehow that happened. And Haunani said to me, if you need my help, I'll come and play with you. It was an interesting time because our stuff was more contemporary in nature, even though the messages were Hawaiian in thought. Haunani was one of those people who had gone to the University of Hawaii in the first language classes. Yeah, that whole school of people with Larry Lindsay Kimura, Haunani Bernardino, Aaron Mahi. There's a whole school of them that were some of the very first Hawaiian language students there. And I was getting more interested in writing in Hawaii. But again, Haunani and I were very different, but our spirit came from the same place. Many of the kupuna that we used as resources, Emma DeFries, Maria Craver, were both special to both of us. So it's almost like in our group, Olomana people were kind of just chosen for each other. So Nakealohe Hanai Mai, or Waimanalo, as it is originally titled. Figs, I think, is a pen name. What we found out was Pigs is a pen name for Kalakaua, and you're right about that. I don't know too much about the history of the song. I loved the song when Haunani approached me with the idea of us singing it together. It made perfect sense to me. And again, I was focusing really on the chorus of the song. So I am not the person to give you the background information, but you're right, it is Kalakaua. Figs was a pen name. If you look at some of the early compositions that are attributed to him, Figs is the name that you will see there as the author. So that's a good line of inquiry to study Kalakaua's music and to see which ones he put his actual name on and which ones came about like this. All of them did that. Lili Okalani did that as well, yeah. So, but yeah, I love that song. After we recorded it, I don't think we ever played it again. So please don't ask me to do it now.
Which is funny because she asked me about it the other day and I said, I don't think we've ever played that song.
No. That's not the key.
Yeah, that's not the
Yeah, let's not ruin it. The recording is really good, and I have plenty at home, so if you like, I can give you.
Well, question.
I just wanted to mention that the kind of changes you're talking about are going on all over. And when I go back to Montana where I grew up, I'm not able to go camping where I used to go camping. Because there was a big RV there from Alabama or whatever, and I didn't have a reservation. So it goes on and on.
Yes.
National parks have millions of people where I used to go.
I hear you,
Oh,
yeah, and that is it. It is about the population boom, yeah. When I was born, my family lived in Ka'ava. On my birth certificate, it says, he always teases me about this.
It's coming, I'm ready to say my line.
Lot number 6, rural Ko'olaulua, territory of Hawaii. I'm very proud of that. I like that birth certificate.
And I always point out that his address was 6. One number was good enough.
It wasn't just us.
And I joked that his phone number was 7.
I don't think that phone. But the point I'm trying to make is that on my 60th birthday, just for myself, every once in a while I like to do things that show me how much time has passed by. So I went and looked at the censuses. Yeah. The census said that Ko'olapoko, you guys know Ko'olapoko, right? Makapu all the way up this way to Peru. When I was born, there were 20,000 people in Ko'olapoko. Can you imagine? Only 20,000 people all through this whole area. On my 60th birthday, I looked at the census and there were 120,000 people. So I tell the kids in my family, is there any reason why I look confused? I'm still trying to figure out where the hell all these people came from. But it is true, and that's why it's important to hold on to the stories. Face of the land is changing tremendously. But if you tell somebody, I used to camp in this spot, this is what it looked like, this is what I got from this place, chances are maybe they'll take a little better care of it, and therein lies why we need to keep singing our songs and telling our stories. The world changes. The idea of kaho'olawe seemed very far-fetched when it first came out. All those passionate people who gave so much of themselves to do this thing. It took decades and decades. It took a Republican congressman who was in a very tight race to say to a Republican president, I think if I can get this, I can get reelected. I probably shouldn't be saying things like this, but it is the truth. And the next thing we knew, it was possible to return kaho'olawe to the state of Hawaii. Just that fast. All those years of fighting and fighting and fighting, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, we can do that. Uncle Harry Mitchell did not linger until the decree was signed, but the folks took his desk to Kaho'olawe and the decree was signed on Uncle Harry's desk. So that's one of the stories that I just love. Now we see, fast forward, a lot of talk, a lot of action during the 70s. We saw education changing. We saw going from a couple of classes in Hawaiian language to getting a doctor's degree in Hawaiian studies. Yeah, we see immersion schools. We see our people speaking Hawaiian, our young people in the street. They know their history. We were hoping to create generations of people who knew who they were. I'm not sure what we expected to come of that, but I personally sit there in awe going, they know their language, they know their history, they know their culture, they know all of these things. Now comes the struggle, where do you practice that? Yeah, if you're a Hawaiian in every aspect of your life, but you're sitting in the middle of an urban area, how do you practice that? And there again comes back around the idea, aloha aina, connection to the land. If we're going to be Hawaiian, we have to continue to malama, we have to continue to care. Little things seem disjointed and not related to each other, but if you look at it, it's that aloha aina that carries to every one of these issues. Waiahole Waikani was, the first thing that I led my voice to when they said, oh, we're going to take this wonderfully good agricultural land and we're going to build houses all over it. And the people of the windward side said, that's crazy, why would you do that? And people everywhere said, that's crazy, why would you do that? Waiahole Waikani was one of the first times I can ever remember where the public gathered together and forced the government to change their mind. And it was a long process. So we won't Waiahole Waikani, but I will mention that there are forces at work trying to change the perspective of the Valley of Waikani. So we need you folks to be maka'ala, because we don't want to go backwards. Yeah? We don't want all of a sudden, after all that struggle, to have people with ideas about developing that area. So someone was speaking to me about it last night, so I mentioned that to you folks, just to look out. But we go from Waiahole, Kaho'olawe certainly is a success story, and now we have 20,000 Hawaiians and their supporters marched through the streets of Waikiki last weekend. And people are like, what is this all about? We have discussions within our own families, we have people taking sides about how do we perceive this? How do we put education and science in front of all of these things? And I say to all of them, if you think about it, at the root of all of this stuff, again, is the land. Yeah? The land that gives us life. Not only does it give us life, but it gives us the mana, the magic. In Hawaiian culture, you imbue that land with the magic that comes back to inform and nurture you. So when we have places like Mauna Kea, Hawaiians have been asked to move over, to make adjustments. Not just Hawaiians in our home, but people all over the world. Native Americans, move over, make a mess. Do what is best for everyone and put what you're thinking aside because it's not the best thing for everybody concerned. And when you live on islands, you can only do that so long. But you find yourself at the very top of the mountain saying, is this the place? Is this the place I should make a stand? Should I say that this is where we're going to stop and we're not going to go any further? Discussions for all of us to have. But for those of us who are musicians, rather than get into the discussion, I think it's our job to remind everybody that Mauna Kea is a special place. That in Hawaiian culture, it goes back through genealogies and our akuas and our amakuas. Again, Vau Akua, a place of the gods. How do we perceive them? And how do we hold it close? So Kamala and I have been fooling around with some songs, and we'd like to share a couple for you. My friend Keola Beamer, one of my first friends at Kamehameha, we met in the 7th grade, wrote a beautiful song because he grew up looking at Mauna Kea in his family home. Second song is from the Kanikapila couple, Kalani Hewitt, that reminds us that Mauna Kea is the home of the snow goddess Polia.
So just so you guys know, following the music, it's going to start on the bottom left.
My friend and I would sometimes run the trails of mountain, and in the evening we come home to see her standing there. The moon moves around her when she sleeps. The clouds stand beside her when she weeps. I could be forgotten and 1,000 miles away. Still I would recall the beauty of mountain. We live in a city now. We see different things, but in the night when I'm alone, she is in my dreams.
Why makakapuli
Now to any land you go, This whole idea of Mauna Kea and the land issues that are coming about now are spawning a whole new group of people writing music. And for anybody who has been attending any of these or seen any of these, one of the major songs that they're singing these days is Kuha'aheo e Ku'u Hawaii, written by Kumo Hinale Moana Wangkalu. We're not going to play this song, but I use this song as an example. Because when we think about the songs written in the early songs in the 1800s, the 1900s, the 1970s, all the way to what we're doing now, we see the same phrases coming about in these music. The song remembers what people are thinking and what people are feeling. The times change, and when you think back on those times, these songs will re-inform you over and over and over again. Her song says, the sea of Hawaii surges in turmoil, the earth of Haumea rumbles and shakes. The highest heavens shudder above. Alas, woeful indeed are the heartless. Stand tall, my Hawaii, band of warriors of my land, the new dawn of our people is upon us. These are heady words, you know, and I saw an interview with her on TV the other day in which she said she wrote this for an immersion school that she was working at, never dreaming that it would become kind of an anthem for this moment in time, and certainly will go down in history as a song that reminds us of this period in our history. I think in conclusion to all of this, what we tried to say in all of this is that music plays an important role in the discussions that go from one generation to the next. Yeah, Hawaii Aloha, 1860. Someone felt that way, wrote those words, and in 2019 we are still singing those words. So let's hope that all of you who are great composers, you know, put your thoughts and your mana into what you're doing, because you never know, you might be creating the moment for this moment in time and the right song for this moment in time. So I hope that this has been at least a little entertaining, if not informative. Any further questions for Kamuela?
Yes, we have class on Monday.
What about Castle?
I said cancel.
Oh, I thought you said Castle.
No.
I was like, Hail alma mater, beneath the paradise.
He knows more of the alma mater than me, and I went there.
I never went to Castle. It's amazing. People think I went there. I still have people coming up and saying, you know, you were in my class. I had somebody from Kailua High School the other night saying, how come you don't come to the reunion? I was like, I never even went to Kailua until I was about 12. Okay.
And he's talking about the town, not the school. Verifying.
Who's coming up next here?
Oh yeah, great question.
Who's coming
So
up next?
our next Kanikapila, we have an announcement that is very pertinent. I'm glad you mentioned that. I choose, and I also ask my students for input of who they would like to have next. And so on November 7th is our next Kanikapila, and our guest artist will be Josh Tatofi. And we do have flyers in the back about that. And also what we're offering today, for those of you that are here, is those of you who are interested in getting the tickets now, rather than waiting and having to stand in line, you are able to do that. Ha'aheo will help you in the back after the performance. So it's November 7th.
I see hands, Kamuela.
It's the 7th. The 7th is a Thursday. It's not what?
Yes, it's the 7th.
It's the 10th.
Oh, the flyer says the 10th, but it's the 7th.
Who did that?
Okay, so don't get the flyer. We're gonna update the flyer.
So I have a question. Did they actually request me, or did you just tell me to come?
Both. No, really
You
both.
folks can tell me the truth after, okay?
Yeah, it was actually, Pono started a movement. There's a petition with over 30,000 signatures. Oh no, that was the
Wow.
PA petition.
I could run for governor.
You could, anyone can.
My friend Mahelan is over there going, oh my God, you're shush.
I'd run for governor, but I don't run.
I know. I can tell.
But we're going to play one more song, right? We're almost found.
Yeah, last song.
One more song before we are done. The whole idea that I was trying to convey to all of you is this idea of songwriting, capturing moments in time, love for our home, and where this is going. Again, you never know when you might write a song that will be special for your moment in time. We're going to leave with a song that I love a lot. These words came about in 1819. King Kamehameha I, upon his passing at his deathbed, he said to those gathered around him some thoughts that went into the creation of this song. He said, let us be of one mind. Let us be united. Let us be of one in heart. Let the good work that we do continue. Continue. Therein lies the rub. Let the good work continue, because then the life in our land will be perpetuated in righteousness. What a wonderful song it's called. Kanaiyaw Puni. Some of you already know it, I'm sure, but let's just sing it with gusto. And we're going back to G, okay? Just like the clips. Go for it.
Kapo
Father, with all of you. Hallelujah.
Mahalo, Uncle Jerry, for sharing your thoughts and music. So, Uncle Jerry will be available for those of you who would like to take pictures. I know some of you, one of my students said he has a record that he wants Jerry to, Olomana record that he wants Jerry to sign. So, if he has something like that, he'll be here. And come take pictures, and also the tickets will be available in the back. And one other thing over here. Yeah, when's the next CD coming out?
You know, I haven't recorded, gosh, almost 30 decades, but
30 decades, wow, how old are you? 30 decades.
2 decades. But there is a brand new recording. It's a compilation of different artists who all have written songs about Mauna Kea. And Chad Taketsugi is a wonderful composer, and Chad called me up out of the clear blue. I don't even know him that well. And Chad asked me to sing on a song that he wrote for Mauna Kea, and I got to do that. So somebody told me they're playing it on the radio. So if I sound good, it's my fault.
I sound bad playing Chad.
Anyway, that's a wonderful company. Josh Tatofi's on there. I think Kelly Michelle's on there. There's a whole bunch of people on that CD. So go check it out. And thank you for asking. If I ever find my way back to a studio, I'll let you know.
The CD's in the mail. Anyways, mahalo again for joining us. Have a great evening. Drive safely. I believe there's refreshments on the table over there. Feel free to partake. Mahalo for supporting our music program at Windward Community College. Aloha.
Oh my.